What you're about to watch is a short clip from my new podcast called Pew Culture. And this podcast is basically me and my friend Jake, who is an armorer, talk about our favorite guns and our favorite action movies. I hope you enjoy the clip. And if you just want to watch the full hour-length version of this episode, I put a link in the description section where you can go subscribe to the Pew Culture channel. Today, we are talking about The Punisher. More specifically, the Punisher, not the movie, but the series. That's currently on Disney X, the last episode of the first season.
Jon Bernthal is the Punisher.
Yes. Is there any other Punisher?
Well, yeah, there's Punisher Warzone.
That doesn't count.
There's Thomas Jane's Punisher.
Doesn't count.
Dolph Lundgren's Punisher.
That doesn't count.
Dolph Lundgren's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. Still doesn't count. The only Punisher I acknowledge is Bernthal.
Fair enough. Jon Bernthal is a badass. He's a good dude.
Met him once at SHOT Show.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, I actually met him on the show because I was there.
Stop one-upping me. Jesus.
That's what I'm here for. And guess what? That is his gun.
He actually asked me to be on this podcast.
The real ones?
Yes.
You didn't go, though, because you're not a real one, right?
It was a scheduling issue. It was a scheduling issue.
I'm sure it was.
It was a scheduling issue. I have the DMs to prove it.
Yep, I can Photoshop, too.
I'm not saying he slid in my DMs, Peter. Whatever. Anyway.
Giggity.
But more importantly, we're talking about the Seekin Precision rifle that he used in that last scene against Billy.
More specifically, the NXP-8. And there's lots of really interesting stuff about this gun. You know, we got the chance to design this firearm for that scene. Memento Mori is the name of the last episode of the first season. It is where Billy Russo becomes Jigsaw, which is now, you know, that's obviously Frank Castle's
brutal.
It's really awesome. That's Frank Castle's arch nemesis. So in the comic books, if you go back, but it's a night fight. It goes back to the carousel where their friendship ended and the hatred began. And at the time, one of the reasons people ask, hey, Frank was in the military, Billy's in the military, Frank uses a Seekins Precision, Billy uses a KE Arms, KE-15, which in part 2 of this podcast, we'll actually get to see the KE-15 as well. But why are they using non-military issue firearms? And the answer is so simple. It's because these people were paying me. So that's why we used it.
I will say, I'm glad they didn't use military firearms because I think each gun, and I don't know if this was on purpose, I'm going to assume it's on purpose because it's you, but each gun really represented the individual, the distinctions between the two. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, they were both in the military, but they kind of approached it it's kind of like you and I.
Yeah.
Right? Billy was very kind of pretty boyish, clean, you know. That
so like
kinda,
me.
Whatever. And then you had the Punisher, who was very raw, gritty.
Yes. Both of the rifles were designed to articulate the character of each individual. Billy was clean, like everything was to a point. He had that personality that made you want to like him until you didn't like him anymore. The cool thing about the Punisher and Jon Bernthal, you know, short-tempered, flies off the handle fast, big bright flash. That's what this gun does. The NXP-8, if you go to get this gun, it's a 300 blackout. So one thing that there are 300 blackouts in movies, but they never fire a 300 blackout blank. Very, very rarely.
Gotcha. So what are they firing?
5.56.
Okay.
So
because I mean they're same casing.
Same cartridge, same casing. The issue is that 5.56 has been around forever. We've developed very, very good blank capabilities for standardized rounds, 9.45, things like that.
Okay.
And it just typically doesn't make sense to create a 300 blackout blank when you don't need to. So while the NXP-8 is a 300 blackout firearm, this one specifically is chambered in 5.56.
So the original comes in a pistol configuration, correct?
Yes, so it comes with a SB Tactical brace instead of the PDW. Obviously, for the movie, ours is SB Ardent full auto. So once you go full auto, it doesn't matter anyways. We knew that scene was going to be shot at night at the carousel. We wanted the actors to have we wanted the characters to have the ability to go at each other at night full throttle. And so Trijicon Reap IR, right? Gotcha. This was actually one of the most expensive optic scenes for 2 characters that we've ever done because we had to use real ones. So we went out full stop.
Why though?
Because the actors wanted to actually be able to go at each other. They actually wanted to be able to see each other under sight.
So it was that dark?
It was that dark, yeah.
Because in the actual, because if you asked me, right, and I think Peter asked me this question when we were watching the clip. I said I probably just would have went in there with a red dot versus, even though I really, really like this optic.
Think about that, though. If you think the other guy is set up and ready to go for a night fight and you come in with a red dot and he actually has one of these, because remember, John comes in second. So Billy's already at the carousel. He's already ready to go.
Well, see, I'm being thrown off by the lighting in the actual film, in the actual scene. That's where my mind went. Yeah. So now I understand what you're getting at in terms of, well, this is supposed to be a night scene.
And that's the thing. That's the hard thing with movies to convey, right? Yes, the carousel itself was well lit.
Yeah.
However, who would have thought that Billy was actually sitting on the carousel until he gets there and he has hostages? Now you're like,
makes sense.
I understand why he's here. You think you're going to show up and you're going to literally fight in the dark. And with movies, one of the really interesting things is that we can't make the scene as dark as it's supposed to be portrayed because you wouldn't.
Because then the scene would suck.
Game of Thrones. Now, Bernthal trains. Even Billy Russo's character, he was boxing every day. He was actually training. He was getting out there trying to get ready. When you get with a method actor like that, who is actually on the range, and John trained with our buddy Taryn, you hand them an optic that they can't see through, it immediately throws them out of their character. And so a lot of times we can get away with broken optics, we can get away with cracked optics or ones that don't work. But when you know you're going to work with a Keanu, you're going to work with a Bernthal, you're going to work with a Chris Pratt, you need to make sure it works. And so that's why you spare no expense on these types of scenes. The other thing is for the gun community, it don't get much bigger than the Punisher. So we wanted to do it right. And it showed because how successful and how diehard loyal was this show for our community. I
mean, it did a great job of definitely scratching that gun guy itch.
Yeah.
Because usually we'll get shows and the guns tend to be somehow, I don't want to say go so far as to say they're generic, but there isn't enough attention paid to the guns being used. And I think what Punisher did a great job of was, like we talked about also in I Am Legend, each gun became a character in and of itself.
Yes.
Right? And in such a way where it wasn't distracting from the overall plot of the show, but at the same time, that inner gun guy and it's got excited to see the gun, see the setup, and see how things work, and then realize that it was done correctly. And then on top of that, because it was a series, you got to see so many different types of platforms.
Right.
So I mean, hell, we could probably do 20, 30 episodes on each episode of Punisher with a different gun.
We could. And
you just watched a short clip from the 3rd episode of my new podcast called Pew Culture, where Jake and I talk about the guns used in our favorite action movies. Now, with Jake being an armor for a lot of the big movie productions, he is a wealth of knowledge as far as behind the scenes information about guns used in our favorite action movies. I created a separate channel for this podcast, so you can click the link in the description section to subscribe to the Pew Culture channel and watch not only this episode, but the previous 2 episodes as well. Pew Culture is also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So click that link in the description section and subscribe to the Pew Culture channel.